I'm here with Dr. Fezile Mkhize, who is the runner-up for Mr. World, is also a medical doctor and very soon to have his cardiovascular surgeon license, and just a lover of life and someone who is part of the SOS Children's Villages in South Africa community. He loves to give back, and he's here with us to talk about his childhood and a little bit about how you can help SOS Children's Villages in South Africa. Fez?
Thank you so much, sir. I feel like you always gas me up. I feel like I'm a bigger deal than I actually am. You like kind of rattle off those things, but I'm very, very honored to be able to speak to you, all the work that you do and all people that you've spoken to. I'm very proud to be one of those people now.
Well, you should be grateful, as I know you are, and gracious that you have those titles behind you. But I know you, brother, you got so many titles in front of you that your work is only beginning. So you can continue to be humble, and you can continue to have that beautiful smile of yours that grace the stages of Mr. World and other competitions. But brother, my man, my men's health cover brother.
I feel like you had to add that one in there. You're like, oh yeah, by the way,
absolutely. And it's not a by the way, because guess what? There's going to be a lot of people that say, I didn't know he was a doctor, but I saw him on the cover.
That's so true. Everybody's always this kind of like when you tell people that you are above 50, people are like, what? Nah, get out of here. Guys, it is a filter. If you actually look at it, no. He's an incredible looking specimen for any age, and I think it's just one of those things where it almost seems like if you can find light, that light kind of shines through, and it starts making people think that the things that you're doing just really can't be possible, but you kind of know inside that you found that thing, that essence, that power that's allowing you to do them, and they become less crazy. I think that's one of the things I've learned through my short time on this earth. But yeah.
It's so true, Fez. And it is really about, this whole thing about it's better to give than to receive. It's not just money. It's about giving of yourself. So the more that you give out there, and a lot of times, you're not, in fact, most of the times, you're not looking for anything in return. You do make some investments where you expect a return, but this is not the type of giving I'm talking about. The giving that I'm talking about just comes for free. It doesn't expect anything. And it's just really giving of who you are with what you have right there. And that's where I want to start. I want to talk about perhaps, what you were given and what, your childhood was like, what you experienced, and what was it like growing up as a child, and maybe perhaps start with telling us where you grew up.
So I am a small town boy, and I always tell people this. I don't know why people think that I come from Johannesburg. It's probably because I've done a lot of the media stuff that I've done here. But I literally came from, most people would know Port Shepstone, but it's like the South Coast, Oslo Beach, and that's where I grew up. And for the kind of first part of my life, the most significant thing I can remember is when my father passed away. I was about 4 years old, and that made my mother a single mother. She was pregnant at the time with my would-be younger sister. She was about 7 to 8 months pregnant, so you can imagine what a devastation that is to kind of have that tragedy happen and be in the position that she's in. And that was probably the first thing I can remember in terms of a significant event in my life where I was like, hey, something's changed. There's been kind of the shift. And yeah, I just remember my mother being this pillar of strength. And she's always been this person who I can always look to as an example when it comes to really just carrying on the path. And she talks about so many things that she says are the reason for why she is so strong. She always says it's because she prays every day. God gives her that strength. And every time somebody asks, it's like, okay, you have this child and you gave birth to this child, then you had this very rebellious middle child, me, and you had this older child who you're kind of trying to balance all of this while still trying to make sure that you made money to get them through school, to get them through tertiary, and to also just put food on the table. And not just for us, but for our extended family as well, because she was the first person to go and get a tertiary level education. So by that, she then kind of by extension wanted to make sure that everybody benefited from that. So our cousins, some of her kind of cousins as well who were brought in, and we had this kind of sense of community through her, that we always wanted to help people whenever we had anything that was kind of given to us, or even sometimes when we had achieved something, we always thought, okay, I have this, how is it I can also use this to help the people who are around me? And because of the fact that I saw her helping out media family, I saw her helping out students that she had, because she was a headmistress, I started realizing that this concept of family and only helping family just didn't really make sense. That you always had to try help as many people as you can, because in some way, shape, or form, we're all connected. And the fact that one person can get something and benefit others means that those other people can also be touched and help so many more. And that's just the lesson, if I can kind of condense it, that I've seen my mother doing, not just through words. She wasn't always telling us the things that she was doing. She would actually go out there and do them. She would be, I'd never seen her drink, I'd never seen her smoke. So in my life, that's where a lot of my discipline also comes in, is that it just seemed like the norm to me to be able to be somebody who says, okay, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to help people, but at the same time have control and ownership of myself and my body, and respecting myself by doing the right things to help me kind of benefit. So if you were to now think that that's kind of the first key thing that's happened to me, everything else has just rolled on from there. And yeah, I realized very early on as well that I liked reading, I liked people, I liked engaging with people. And the best way to kind of put that together would be to actually become somebody in the medical field. And my mother, if you ask her, will tell you about a very interesting story. She said she always wanted to be a doctor, but because of the times, she actually got her acceptance letter into the medical fraternity very late. She stayed in a rural area. So by the time she got the letter, the time for her to say, I'm accepting a place into this institution, kind of lapsed. So she then decided, okay, I'm not going to kind of take time off or whatever it may be, because she couldn't. She was already on a bursary, and she was already kind of doing things that were going to require her to start earning an income as soon as possible. So she went into the education route, because she was also somebody who really loved people, and always admired the teachers that helped her to be able to be who she is. So every single day, I can remember from like 6 years old, my mother was like, I really wanted there to be a doctor in the family. But I mean, what can you do? You know, it just wasn't in the cards. And I just remember being this kid. I didn't even know what it took. I just knew that doctors were cool because they were really smart. And then my mother really wanted a doctor in the family. And I was like, you know what, Mom, that's going to be me. I just remember I kept telling her, listen, it doesn't matter what it takes. How many A's, but whatever distinction, I got it. Just leave it to me. And the funny story to that is that I would cut to my final year in medical school. My brother, who I'd always thought would be an accountant, had turned and become a doctor, and at that point had gone through his internship, his mandatory years, and was actually practicing. And we had never spoken as to why he decided to do medicine. So we were sitting at a restaurant one day. He'd come down from Johannesburg because he was working there. I was like, hey, man, I always thought you wanted to be an accountant. Kind of, why did you decide medicine? Because you know I always said out loud I wanted to do medicine. And he was like, you know, Mom always used to tell me this story. I was like, no way. So she told us these stories separately. I realized I never heard her tell the story while he was in the room. And lo and behold, there you go. She got 2 doctors for the price of 1 story. And she likes to say how the government needs to give her money back now because she produces doctors, and we talk about a sorted. She's like, I can just kind of get them all coming out. But yeah, I just realized the beauty of what she did.
Your mother sounds extremely strategic. Besides being caring and loving and having to do the hard and heavy lifting of raising 2 boys, also, and your sister as well.
Of course, yeah.
Raising the 2 boys, especially, it was, I admire her tenacity and her gift of having that strategic nature about her to raise two doctors, man. That's quite awesome.
It's so crazy because it's And I mean, I kind of thought about it when he said it, and I was like, wait, did she make me become this? And I realized the way she did it was so nuanced. She told the story. She was like, listen, it's your life. You decide what you want to be. This is just something I'd wanted. I know the kind of person you are, and you care about people, and you're always doing selfless things. But this is what I wanted. So, and it led me to read up more about it and to consolidate that I really wanted to do it. And then, yeah, I think she presented the path, and I kind of took it, and I've never looked back. And to this day, I love it. But she always takes a piece of it and goes, "Well, you're welcome." You know, she's like,
That's awesome.
"Yeah, I just
And
kind of trim them up."
I like that. I like that. You're welcome. I love that. I love that. But hearing about your mom and hearing about how wonderful that relationship is and was, it also makes me think about the loss of your dad. It makes me think about, not only how hard that was and would have been for her, but what that meant for you and your brother and your sister. How you overcame that, I guess, is my question. How do you overcome not having your father in your life and still being able to achieve what you've achieved?
I think it's that beauty of, and I, again, if you ask her, she'll tell you that she did this on purpose. I don't know. I think she's a very smart woman. She's intuitive, but it's bringing people in, and it was forming that kind of community where I knew about kind of the nuclear family, that there was a father there, and the father had the roles, and she made sure that I was in contact with kind of male figures who were there, people she thought were exemplary, people who had been friends of his because he had been such an outgoing person. He had friends that, oddly enough, he had been going to go see when he had gotten into the accident because he was going to go help them out, and they would come in and they'd speak to us, and there was kind of that connection that we'd make. And my mother just describes him as somebody who would always just drop everything to go help anybody he considered a friend, family, that kind of person who was always there for the community. And he was actually driving, and a taxi swerved and literally hit him head on, and dead on impact. So yeah, it's kind of those stories where you think if he hadn't gone, then he probably would be here. But if he hadn't gone, he wouldn't be the person who my mother had fallen in love with, who has now become an example for me in terms of helping others. So it's one of those stories where it's a very tragic event, but it's also now imprinted on me, even subconsciously, to just always try to be giving to others. And I think as a legacy, for me, that makes me very proud to think of him as somebody who's left that for me. So it's, yeah, it's
Bro,
it's
it's heartwarming, it's tragic,
yeah,
but it's life. And that's what I try to share with people, that, people say, but no, that's death. I said, yes, because death is a part of life. And until you recognize that we all have our time on
yeah,
this earth, and whether it is a day or whether it is a century, that it's what you do within that period that makes up who you are, makes up, what you can do for others and how you can help change the world. And your dad did that, brother. He did what he needed to do in the time he was alive. You said it yourself, in terms of giving back and in terms of being that person for others. And that's exactly why he was even in his car at the
yeah.
time of his demise, which speaks volumes about who you are, who your brother is, who your mother and sister are. And I love that, because it brings to light the importance of community, of family, and of the fact that we need each other. And I think that that's something that you've shared with us, Fez, that you recognize that you're not alone in this, and that even when things are going well for you or when things aren't going well for you, it's not only about you, and
Yeah.
that whatever you can do to give back is important, just like your dad.
Uh, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's crazy because in my profession, you work with death all the time, and you have to figure out how you can conceptualize this concept, because some people, I know people, friends who've never had anybody pass away. They know maybe one incident about somebody who's passed away. And even in these times, you just see so many sick people and people who who may have gotten sick and passed away. It's conceptualizing that nobody's won that fight. As strong a warrior as you are, nobody has won that fight against death. He is undefeated. And you just have to realize that we all come here, we all have a purpose, we all try to find that purpose. For me, I've always found that I've resonated the most with helping, giving of myself as much as I can. I've always found that that refreshes me, it gives me joy. But yeah, I think with what has happened to my father, I think it just makes it that much more of a connection where I feel like even though I can't quite remember him, I have pictures of him. There's that link where if I met him now, he'd be like, "Yeah, you're my kid. You do all of these things because at the end of the day, even though you were 4 years old, those things were imprinted into you." And I think I always say if we could just maybe be more like that as people across the board, we would be able to resolve so many issues that we have and be able to kind of push forward that community feeling that I think the world really needs.
No doubt, brother. And you said it, that this COVID crisis is a difficult time for us to fathom, how we're going to survive and fathom how we're going to get through these challenges. And that's part of the reason why we're even having this chat, is because SOS Children's Villages in South Africa have found it very difficult to get over this COVID crisis hump because of unemployment, because of the lockdown, and because, quite frankly, of the social ills that have reared their ugly head in such a dastardly way. The social injustices seem to be more prevalent now than ever. And it's beautiful to talk with you about the joy of family and the importance of overcoming obstacles. But it's not the case for a lot of our families. And it's not just the children, but even the parents, the willing parents who don't have what it takes. What would you say? What would you say to families who are really finding it difficult during this season of COVID and finding it difficult to find the joy that you talk about, to find the happiness? What would you say to them?
I think the best thing I can say, and I say this knowing how much of a weight it is, knowing how frustrating it can be to want to give, especially as a parent, because you always feel like that's your one thing. And I remember the times when my mother was like, I got the grades, I go and I do community work and I do all of these things, and I'm trying to get through medical school because of the issues with bursaries, and we had to kind of juggle all of those things. And she would tell me the one job she had as a parent was just to provide and to get me through medical school, and I'm doing my side and she'd feel like she's not doing her side. And I tell her the same thing. I'd say sometimes the best thing you can give is just that love. Sometimes the best thing you can realize is that things will get tough, but pushing through, having that faith, however you find it, whichever thing you push that faith into, is always going to be the rudder that's going to steer you into the right direction. And it's also on the flip side why I resonate so much with SOS. They really do try to do the best they can with very limited resources, because it's all predicated on people giving of self and people donating, and then trying to help those children, trying to help families to be able to build structures that allow children to thrive. So to them, I'd say there is light, as hard as it is to see it, coming from where I've come from. And by no means is it the worst circumstances, especially because I know I had a parent who was at least working, who was educated, and could kind of give me opportunities that she never had, but that there is a light. And on the other side, those people who are watching, to try help be that light. I realized that nothing significant is done alone. I couldn't have done this kind of engagement alone. I would have just felt awkward talking about the things that I've gone through. I think I would have been more closed up. We needed you, the warrior that you are, my brother, to get this conversation going. But again, the two of us wouldn't be able to do much. It's just imploring and asking everybody who is watching this to try give whatever you can. You may think of it as a little. Trust me, even 10 Rand, 1 Rand is a lot when we all come together. And it's even if it's one family who gets that hope, it's one more family than there was when we were speaking right now. So those are the two messages I give to both parties. And I know for a fact, as much as it is hard, because we've all taken a knock, some people have it harder than what you may have. So please do try, dig as deep as you can to give to them.
It is always better to give than to receive. And in fact, the receiving is in the giving. I get goosebumps listening to you because of the way that you are being generous with your time, you're being generous with your compliment. That is part of giving. A smile, a laughter, a hug, a kiss is part of giving. And if I feel goosebumps, Fez, then that means that it's spiritual. I really believe that goosebumps is a spiritual manifestation or a physical manifestation of the spirit that just speaks to, you know, what we can't explain and what things we don't understand. Sometimes good, sometimes even bad. But I just love the way you put it when you say, regardless of what you have, regardless of your situation, give. And although this interview is partly in part to get people to spend money, and it's very important that we have monies, which is the facilitator for us to be able to build and to connect and to give resources and to give food and whatever is required. But sometimes it's really the attitude and the behavior in the giving that is behind that smile and that laughter that makes the difference. So I'm grateful that you would even take this time with us, and I'm so grateful that you're part of this, that you believe in SOS Children's Villages in South Africa, and that you have a Give and Gain page that people can actually go onto your Give and Gain page in order to make a difference.
And thank you for even putting it out. I'm going to say it again. I really do have a Give and Gain page, guys. We're going to be able to tell you guys where to go to find it when you're kind of watching this. If you really do get lost, you can go into any of my social media platforms and you can find the link to be able to go there. And I generally, I never really ask much when it comes to people, because I always like to kind of use my hands to get the things that I have, because I've always felt like I'm confident in that, and I can kind of put that to good use, because I found that that's the most beneficial thing for me. But when it comes to things that are just above me, beyond me, please do help. And I do need your help. We all need your help at SOS to be able to make a difference. And from my side, I'm going to keep pushing it. I'm a very stubborn man. So I will, even if it means pushing the wheel by myself, I will definitely do it. But in this circumstance, I really would hope that I could get as many of you as possible to lend a shoulder to push it financially, because of the situation that we're in now. And I will make sure to also just let you guys know when we can have people coming in on a volunteer basis to help at some of the villages. And you're right. Sometimes even the intention to give because you don't have right now is also a good thing, because it lingers in the mind and it reminds you, maybe when that payday comes in or whatever it may be, you realize, hey, I've gotten so much more than I expected. Let me make a family's day. Let me make a child's day by just giving something to better their future. So I'm hoping at least that video would put that intention in everybody's mind too. And I would be amiss if I didn't say thank you so much, brother. The work you do is incredible. I always tell people, do work that doesn't need clout to keep pushing it. Do work that doesn't need you to be getting paid for it, a huge following for it. Do it because it's the right thing to do. And for me, that's kind of what you do. You are a very chivalrous person. You speak about faith, manifestation, and truth, and that's what we need in this world. So I'm incredibly honored. This is probably one of the best platforms that I've been on, and I've been on some pretty big platforms there.
Well, this one you don't have to wear a bikini for.
You had to pull that one back, huh? You had to. Well, it was a Speedo that probably is more a thong than anything, but it was also not for me. It was for a group of great people. I would gladly wear one for SOS if they needed me to. So that's how dedicated I am to this.
Well, we'll speak to some of the organizers on the back end to see if they need you in that Speedo bikini. I'm cool. I'm cool.
I feel like if I'm doing it, you're doing it as well, because this is where it's become accepted, and people are like, oh, okay, WarriorRic, he does the warrior race is kind of in there. We need to see the package. We need to see that it's not all here. You know, we need to.
I love it. So we're gonna go from these virtual chats to the real deal, full bodied, shirt off. My brother, I gotta say, challenge accepted. Guess what?
For the kids, listen. For the kids, I would do whatever it
I'm
took.
with you.
So if people are willing to put some money on it, if you want to see us do a bit of a run, whatever it may be, I will gladly do so. And I'm very sure you would too, because I have you on camera now. I have it all recorded. We'd be more than happy to, and it will be your fault if you're scarred for the rest of your life.
Did you guys hear that? Scarred for the rest of my. The only scar that I can have for the rest of my life would be a scar of love, my brother. So it's okay. It's all right.
Brother, I love you, man.
Love you too. Dr. Fez Mkhize, thank you so much for your time and your energy and your support of SOS Children's Villages South Africa. Give and gain, go on to Fezile's page, and please help us to help SOS Children's Villages in South Africa during this difficult time. Thanks again, Fez.
Thank you so much, brother.